You're listening to That Haffle Show, where I talk about everything gaming. Kick back, relax, and enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to That Haffle Show. I'm your host, Haffelheim, aka Haffle, and on this pilot episode, we're going to be talking about The Lord of the Rings Online. Tonight's show, I'll be joined by two guests. I've got Arv, who is the leader of the Guild Kinship on the Riddermark.
Hello, everybody.
And we've also got Wiga, who's the successor of the DKOD kinship on the Riddermark.
Hi.
Well, for a pilot episode, we sure as hell got some big to talk about. Arguably, the biggest announcement since Lotro going free to play all those years ago is we have server closures coming up. We've got migrations and free transfers. Well, in terms of server closures, we've got 29 live servers right now, and by 2016 we'll have 10, 5 from the US and 5 from the EU. Arv, do you think server closures have come a little too soon?
No, actually, I think that it was inevitable that this would happen, but I don't think some people saw it coming. I would guess that was why a lot of people from the past who I used to play with don't really play anymore. Was because a lot of our other friends and kinship members moved on to other servers, and when one would go to like Craig Hollow, another one to Arkenstone, another one to Landervault, Brandywine, etc. It did a lot. In terms of diminish, I believe game not gameplay but game activity in terms of how many people have logged in. So I believe that this was a long time coming. That I believe it will bore fruit in the long run, and I can't wait until the server transfers happen.
I agree, and I should also mention in there that all three of us are from the Riddermark and have been playing on the Riddermark for what I'd say the past 4 years. Is that right?
Oh yeah, probably more than that.
Right.
Yep.
And for Wiga, you've rated both. When I say rated, you've done endgame stuff and festival stuff on Ridder as well as another server that you play on, which is Landreval. When did you start to notice that, in terms of our server, the Riddermark, that activity was starting to dwindle slightly?
Right. Actually, not right after. A couple of months after they introduced Helm's Deep, a lot of the raiders on Riddermark weren't really satisfied with just the big battle. Um, I kind of, I personally kind of liked the changes. It was exciting in that it was new, but that excitement just really wore off, and even I got bored of big battles. To this day, I will not run a big battle unless I like really need to.
That makes both of us, I suppose. But yeah, as for me, on the Riddermark, because that's was well, yeah, it used to be my main server for a very long time before I actually moved my main to Landreval. But what I started to notice was that, yep, Helm's Deep was sort of like the turning point into when activity started to dwindle, especially for Riddermark, because somehow I just, among a close group of friends, we're all raiders, we're in the same raiding alliance, and people start dropping one by one. Arv, let's talk about the guild. You lead the kinship, the guild, and any of the members spoken to you about, why the activities weren't up there or why the content wasn't as good as it used to be?
It was from a few of my kinship members that I talked to that were still active at the time that the big battles were first introduced. Like Wiga had said, it was something new, it was something to try out, and it was good for a little while. But then the novelty wore off, and then we didn't really have any new end game raids or intricate six-man runs to run, other than the ones we already have and with the ones that we've already previously beaten. So at that point, there were other new games that were being introduced into the mix. Not that I want to plug any other games right now, but I think Lotro could take a few pointers from stuff like Guild Wars 2, especially. Um, see what they've implemented in terms of keeping their activities in terms of their population from dwindling or diminishing, stuff like that. And it's weird to have to plug another game during a Lotro chat, but it is something to take into account because after that, as I totally agree with what Wiga said. I got tired of running big battles, man. It was just, I think it was just like another grind, you know. I kind of wish that Minus Turrets wouldn't be like that in the future. I wish it would be a little bit more, I don't know, challenging to the sense that we have to actually think. I'm not saying that you don't have to use your brain to do a big battle, but it definitely requires a little less brain work than when you're trying to defeat the Watcher in the water, which has phases. I believe it had 5 phases to work through. That could
Right.
take almost, for a first time, 2 hours to finish that raid, give or take. You know, so I think that um, the big battle system did have a lot to contribute to the diminishing activity of the server.
Right. I see your point there. And let's take it away from the rating perspective for a bit because we've got 29 servers, as mentioned, and we're only going to have 10 left. And across these closing servers, all of them, across the board, population is obviously at a low, which is why they got picked. But are there any other reasons that you guys see besides, like, from a Raiders perspective, is it just that Lotro is an aging game that like Arv mentioned earlier, there are lots of competitor games out there that are doing stuff much better. A lot of devs are showing more interaction with the player base, more feedback, because it's a two-way thing, right? The players are gonna give their feedback on
Oh
how to
yeah,
improve something, and it's up to the devs to do it or not. But with Lotro, personally, I don't see that type of interaction. So is that a reason why players have jumped ship? Anybody?
I wouldn't say jumped ship per se, but the interest, it's hard, I think, to keep interested in a game that you're playing that doesn't have it doesn't introduce anything fresh. I remember when the Riders Rohan expansion came out, and I was really excited for Mounted Combat, man. I was like, oh, what, this is new, and you think they'll implement raids with this? You think we'll have, because Mounted Combat has a totally different skill bar with totally different skills for each class, right?
Right.
So if they really at that time wanted to bank on it some more, we actually could have had some sort of crazy raids out in the fields of Rohan, you know, and
That's
that
a
would have
good
taken a
point.
lot of time to practice. We can't just take a big troll down by itself. Maybe I had to ride over here while Haffle tanks him over there, but then all of a sudden 2 other trolls come out of nowhere and Wiga has to go off tank them over there. That kind of stuff. But it didn't happen.
Right. That and I totally agree with that in terms of okay, let's bring Riders of Rohan expansion 2012 into the picture. Lotro introduced the mount combat system, and at the time it was a good, I would say, a gimmick to bring players back because at last you get to fight in your war steeds and stuff. But it's a new system that they implemented, and it got everybody back. But a couple of months later, people are saying, it's so broken. There's a lot of rubber banding. It's like it's just not fleshed out enough, and people just started. These days when I level an alt, I don't even care for mounted combat. Like it's not a requirement for me. So I wonder if the devs are, at the time implementing a new system, leaving it just, halfway finished, and that could have an effect on the players leaving. What do you think, Wiga?
Definitely. Oh, like mounted combat for a lot of people when it first came out was really fun, and then people started realizing that different classes had better advantages mounted combat than other classes. For example, champion mounted combat is supposed to be really good. I don't have a champ, but that's what I hear.
It's
And
awesome.
Yeah,
other
can't be
well,
so
like
fast.
Berg mounted combat is supposed to be like ugh.
The worst. I have all classes, by the way, so
And
well, almost all the classes.
by the way, Bjorning's on a horse sucks too, so just throwing that in there.
They should just be the
Yeah,
horse and just
actually,
be the bear.
I really feel like for Bjorning mounted combat, since they introduced Bjornings after mounted combat, really feel like they just kind of like threw it together. They didn't really like think about it too much. It doesn't feel really seamless. Like minstrel mounted combat's not that bad. Lore master mounted combat isn't bad at all. So like really compared to like those classes, the Bjorning feels really clumsy on mounted combat. My Bjorning, I shifted into a bear form and I chase mounted enemies down.
See, there you go.
Yeah, I mean that's
it was a fun thing, Haffle, at the time, but as
yeah for
Wiga has
like a month.
mentioned, for and then the rubber banding happened. I know of a guild member that just couldn't do Rohan because the mounted combat was just so laggy for him. He just couldn't do it. Not that he didn't want to do it, he couldn't do it. So there were a lot of things to fix and a lot of things to consider with the mounted combat system. In the end, do I use my mounted horse more than my regular horse? No.
Yeah, that's pretty
In
true.
the fear of rubber banding and lagging through a wall and then falling to your deaths.
Uh,
That's happened before.
Especially in towns and hubs, like I ride my war steed all the way to town. I'll get off and get on my normal steed and just proceed into town. And I wish Lotro would, put posters everywhere like no war steeds allowed here. Use your normal horse. Because if they don't tell people that, they're just gonna go in and get frustrated as heck.
Indeed.
And
I think there's one more use for mounted combats that regular horses don't have.
What's
Um,
that?
Cosmetic system. Like you can match your horse to your outfit and just sit on your horse. You don't gotta move. You just sit on it.
for 500 TP only.
Oh, but then you gotta buy the
Yeah.
die, the specific mounted combat dies with TP. Oh.
But yeah, I mean that's just mounted combat. I mean, did it really ultimately drive people away from the game? I don't think so. It just became
No.
yeah, it just
There's
became
a lot of things.
yeah, it just became like a nuisance kind of thing. Like these days, a lot of people just ignore it completely, and it's just stuff like that. I personally feel contributes to it, and I'm gonna bring in something that I think it's been talked about to death, but class trait trees. This one nearly drove me away, guys, and I'm not kidding. When with Helm's Deep they announced that they're gonna implement, class overhauls like from A to Z, everything, new skills, everything's hidden behind or locked behind a trait tree. I thought it was gonna be, a nightmare, and because I play a captain, and traditionally captains are the support class, and we do everything from hands of healing to lead the charge. We use all of our skills at any given time, and this is especially true if you're a PvMP or a raider like myself. But we couldn't do it anymore, so that nearly broke the game for me. And I know of a few kinnies who said, screw it. I'm not gonna stay in Lotro because I've learned to play this class for the past 3 years, and now this has come in, and I'm totally have to gonna go and earn those skills again and relearn how to play my class. Do you guys agree that this was, the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of players?
For
You
me,
know what? I
oh,
really noticed a decline in lore masters after they introduced trait trees. And you guys know when they introduced trait trees, I quit my lore master. Like my lore
That is
master
true.
was my main tune for so long, and then they introduced trait trees, and I was like, I quit. I'm gonna delete my lore master.
yeah, that was pretty funny.
But yeah, so I noticed a decline in lore masters after the trait trees. I don't know if those people stopped playing entirely or they just switched to different aughts like I did, but there's definitely a decline.
What about you,
For
Marva?
for me, um, now just not to plug another game again, but I play more than just Lotro. I play other games as well. So I also played when I wasn't playing Lord of the Rings. I also played a little bit of Star Wars: The Old Republic, and the Star Wars: The Old Republic. I think now their system has gone through another change that I'd actually like to get into. Anyways, I'm not gonna get into that, but their old system of how they did their class trait trees and points and attributes and all that stuff was similar, if not almost identical to what we have now. The only difference was at the time that for the Star Wars trait trees, you only needed to put 1 point to unlock anything. For the Lotro trait trees, I think what frustrated me was you needed to put like a double amount of points into a trait tree like you weren't like gonna use mainly, as like the red line is traditionally in Lotro the DPS line,
Hmm.
but then I would have to put 2 points into this yellow line trait that I want to use. In
Right.
Star Wars, it was only 1 point for everything. 1 point, 1 point, 1. You didn't have to double up on points and anything. So I thought that was a little frustrating on that part. But in terms of the original question, Halfle, was this the straw that broke the camel's back? It might have contributed to it, but I don't think it did. For people that were frustrated, just like Wiga was with the lore master, it was this is change. Now, I don't want to get all philosophical and everything, but in terms of change, when you've been doing something for years, as you guys have mentioned, and then all of a sudden there comes a change, it's very hard to adjust to that. You know, you've been traded, and I know Haffle, because I have a captain as well. We traded specifically for most situations as support, if not all situations as support. But then these changes came in, and how are we gonna be able to continue being what we used to be doing for how many years? It is very frustrating, and I can understand why you almost wanted to basically quit the game
Hmm.
because we've been doing that for so many years.
Yep.
But what I want to give like perspective to is that we have to try to adjust to change because things will consistently evolve and change, and we can only give so much feedback for. So that's another thing that I'm sure we're going to be talking about in just a few minutes about how we can give our feedback about that, and that's in terms of the Players Council, right, Havel?
That's right. So let's get straight into it. The Players Council. I mean, every year, Lotro, selects a group of people who have been active in the forums or in game, who proactively sends their feedback to Lotro on how to improve things. With regard to server populations going down, and we can sit here and debate all day about what's causing it, what happened, what's the turning point. Um, I think the player council should have had a good idea of what's not going so good in game, and they've had 2 or 3 years to bring this up to Lotro. I would even say since Helm's Deep, I would say since Riders of Rohan, we've had a lot of problems. Not that big of a problem, but just community-related issues that should have been conveyed better. And Arv, I believe there was a member in your kinship who didn't convey the message, I suppose.
I wouldn't say that he didn't convey the message. I think that um, I just think he there would have been needed more of a polling in terms of what we would have liked to see in terms of the content moving forward. It eventually we eventually did get to that, but I just I just thought it took a longer amount of time to get that our messages across because we have a forums and we put on our forums like, hey, what would you like to see for future Lotro content, and we gave them our advice, and I believe it helped a little bit. So it wasn't like it was a negative thing, but I believe that it's not just up to the obviously one kin, but like the whole server, like you said, the community needs like maybe they did have an actual Lotro post about it that I'm not aware of, but maybe the some of the kind of players council members can let us know like, hey, we put up this post on the forums, if you guys want to contribute to it, comment on it, that would be great.
Yeah,
And then I could let my kinship know, let my alliance members know, and then let that spread. And then there you
yeah,
go. There's
agreed.
an actual like physical,
This,
like
a working
tangible thing you can
feedback
look
system.
at.
Yeah, and
Exactly, in a
in
working
the
feedback
past,
system.
because I lurk on the forums sometimes at work, and I always thought that because people post stuff on there. I mean, just because there a lot of people want to see some changes to the system or just give their feedback, but I don't know. To me, it felt like nothing was ever being taken seriously. So the players council members were there on the forums, and they'd be sort of like the moderator between the devs and the people posting, but it just seems like nothing was ever moving. So that polling system you just suggested was actually a great way, and moving forward, I hope they do implement that. And like it or not, guys, we've got a couple of months before the servers close down, and unfortunately Riddermark is one of the ones affected. So, as mentioned earlier, come 2016, there's going to be 10 servers remaining, 5 US and 5 EU. Let's talk about that for a second. Are you guys genuinely excited that this is it? This is going to be the future of Lotro. We've got all these remaining players from all these closing servers on, 5 hot populated servers, and it's going to be like brand new again. It's going to be like free to play all over again. New players, bustling towns, pugs for raids going all over the place. Are you guys feeling it? Are you guys excited, Wiga?
Um, I'm excited and sad at the same time.
Right.
Um, I I don't know when exactly the dates are that Riddermark is going to allow people to transfer off of Riddermark, but I know for sure, like at the end of your like December 31st or something like that, that's like the last day you could ever play on Riddermark, and then after that you have to transfer. I'm going to keep at least one of my tunes on Riddermark for as long as possible, but just because there's always to me there's always just that chance that one of my old friends might just come back just like randomly, just be like, oh, I'm gonna see what Lotro's about. I haven't been on Lotro in a couple of years,
Right.
and like I don't want to miss that opportunity to talk to this person again or these people again. So
That's a
um
smart move. I think,
yeah.
yeah, transfers off Riddermark. I think we are the second in line behind Elendilmir, if I am not mistaken, which means I think by September, people should be transferring off. But yeah, if it's gonna remain open all the way until the last day of 2015, then that is actually a good idea. Arv, what about you? Are you excited at all, for the times ahead on those remaining servers?
For all the things you have mentioned, yes. If anything, a hell yes. It's gonna feel like how this game was when I first started playing. Like you said, pugs everywhere, bustling towns. Hey, you need something? You need some help? You want to trade for this or that? Oh, where'd you get that? Piece of armor? Oh, can you make me some die? That to me is what exemplifies the core of Lord of the Rings online.
Yep.
We're online. We're with people. I mean, it's not like it's an antisocial game. You could play by yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. The quests are definitely made for that as well. But it, I agree with Wiga. It is gonna be bittersweet. Had some great memories on this server. A lot of great memories on this server.
Then we
But
should
in the
totally talk
end,
about it, like,
oh
because
yeah,
we've got at least 4 years on this server individually, and Riddermark means a lot because it's home. I mean, you go play another game and you come back to Lotro and you're on the Riddermark. All your
come back
friends,
home.
yeah, coming back home essentially. And I think because the three of us have been playing together for what, 3 years now, since the Ram Alliance, and we've got some great memories. So why don't you guys share some of your best Riddermark memories? I mean, hell, this thing's closing down. Let's just get it out. Let's just get it out there. Arva, what about you? What's your best memories on the Riddermark server?
Well, one of my best memories that stands out to me the most, upon becoming the leader of a kinship, of the guild kinship, was when we first beat the Dragok raid back at level 75, the Rise of Isengard. That was the raid that came with that expansion, and it was a 12-man raid, at least for the challenge, and our kin took about 6 months. And damn proud of it. Took 6 months to do in kin, with the kin, solely kin members only. It took a long time. Took a lot of practice. Took a lot of research. I actually leveled up a burglar just specifically for that specific raid. And then the 6th month after we kept on doing it every Friday night, we finally got. I actually have it. Recorded on YouTube. So I go back to
Nice.
that. I watch that a few times, and it makes me smile. A lot of funny moments during that raid, but it is exactly what I would remember the server Riddermark for, and the people that I've played with that haven't come on. Please guys come back. Haven't played in a while, but it was a kinship effort. It was a great feeling because that raid, I believe, was like the pinnacle raid. It was so different. If you guys haven't done that raid, please do. It is level gated at 75. That's the highest level you could do it. And I believe we recently just did it as well, Wiga, right? So yeah, that's definitely one of my best memories for Riddermark.
Awesome, awesome. Wigo, what about you? What's your best memory being on the Riddermark server?
um it's also during the Rise of Isengard, but instead of Dragok, it was the very first time I was in a raid that beat Saruman, Tower of Orthanc. This it wasn't a kin effort. It was kind of like it wasn't really a pug because these people had been working together for months, and this was two people from DKOD, and you guys know Shrewd, the RK, he was there, and then there's
Hmm.
just a bunch of other people. Um, a lot of them ended up joining into One Kin Redemption, but I never joined Redemption, and Shrewd never joined Redemption, but um, that specific moment when we beat Saruman and that was like the moment like people recognized me as an actual raid tank, like raid ready tank, someone who can tank, anything T1, someone who can tank T2, even T2C, and that kind of is what set me into, my position as a raider, which led to me going into PvP.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a great story. Any other memories, guys, that you just want to share? Arv?
Another memory that I had of Riddermark was the very interesting, just to bounce off of what Wiga said, aspect of PvP. Now, I was one of those that was like, oh, I'll never PvP, and I love PvE. I just like doing raids. And then one of my officers said, you know what, Arv, let's go out into the Endmoors. Let's see what that's all about. Why not? And this was back in the days when, if any of you remember, Adino, the leader
Oh yeah.
of an unexpected party at the time, AUP, was the foremost, um, let's say, charge leader of the Free Peoples, or the Freeps as we call them, of the Enmores, versus Azza, the leader of the Creeps, or the monster players, on PvP. Anyways, to make a long story short, it was an awesome first experience. We were at Tirithra, TR, and we battled there for hours. I don't remember how many hours, but I just know I ranked up and got a bunch of comms, and I was hooked then.
Awesome. And just throwing it out there, if you're listening to this and you're from a different server, Um, Riddermark was once unofficially known as the unofficial PvP server because activity, I think this was back in maybe 2011, 2012, people would transfer here to PvP. That's how, well known we were as a PvP server because of those two names that Arv just threw out there, Adino and Aza. It was a love story or a hate story that's better than Twilight.
Love and hate story. It was
Yeah.
great.
As for my personal, favorite memories of the Riddermark, gosh, I don't know. I've got so many, but I'll
Me too, but those are the two that I can think of.
yeah, I'll do it in bullet points. I mean, for one, I start my kin here, BVM, and we're all a bunch of close friends now in real life. I met Arv and Wiga. This is where you go, aw.
Oh.
Aww.
I met them through, a rating alliance because I think before I met them, I wasn't much of a raider. Like I just dabbled in it here and there. And I'd been out PvPing, but I didn't commit to it. But after joining the Raid Alliance, everything just kicked off from there, and I started just becoming my own self in terms of Haffleheim. I just grew into my character, and my character was me essentially. And Riddermark did that for me by introducing me to all these great players and good friends, and just the atmosphere of being in your home server. And I just really, it's just so sentimental for me. So I suppose
Me
we should
too.
also we should also talk about going way back, even before memories. Like, why did you guys end up choosing the Riddermark server in the first place? Like when you first started Lotro, why did you pick the Riddermark server? Wiga.
I didn't actually. You guys know this, but everyone else doesn't. My kin, Dick Hardy, is a family kin. The founder founded the kin with his brother, and then they invited my mom, who became successor, and then my mom invited me, my younger sister, and my sister's boyfriend at the time. Those were the founding members. Um, yeah, I didn't want to play Lotro. I wasn't really into MMOs. If I was going to play a video game, it was going to be handheld, or it was going to be PlayStation.
Or Pokemon.
Well, Pokemon's in handheld.
Oh
But
yeah, sorry.
um, anyways, well, I came home from winter break one time, and mom was like, "Oh, let me see your laptop. I'm gonna update it or something like that." I was like, "Okay." So I just gave her my laptop, and updating it was installing Glotro and starting a guard for me.
Was that still Anwiga?
Yeah,
That your guard?
that's Enwiga, yeah. But anyway, she chose Riddermark because she loves that scene in the second movie where Eomer is introduced, and Aragorn's like, "Riders of Rohan, what news from the Mark?"
Nice.
Oh, I did not know that. Or maybe I did.
That's awesome. What about you, Arv? Why did you pick the Riddermark?
Well, mine was more random than that. Before I started playing Lord of the Rings, actually my brother first started playing Lord of the Rings, and he made a character here. I think it was my warden. Still is my warden. Um, Yeah, I think he just chose it randomly, but then after that, he started playing other games, and I stuck to this one. So yeah, mine wasn't. There's nothing too fancy about my joining, or playing this game. But man, I got hooked. I got hooked.
Well, as for me, when I first installed Lord of the Rings Online, like when the first time I was going to play it was probably in 2009, and there was only a few servers back then. So I played on Brandywine, and it was a 2 week trial, and I forgot about it once it expired. And I came back again, and the first server that, the Lotro launcher, it usually tells you recommended server. So it recommended me to Riddermark. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm a fan of Théoden. I'm a fan of, the Rohirrim. I love the score from the movies, and I love everything Rohirric, basically. So I'm like, screw it, I'll go with the Riddermark and see what happens. No regrets.
Me too. No regrets.
Excellent. Well, guys, this has been a fantastic chat. And to wrap things up, I suppose let's talk about the future in terms of, for us where we're heading to and what's next in Lotra for us and our kins. Let's start with Arv. Arv, yourself and the guild kinship, where are you guys heading to for the transfers and what's next for the guild?
Well, for the guild, we are going to be transferring to the Landreval server. Um, only a few of us have, only a handful of us, I should say, are going to be transferring because the majority of our players have been inactive for years, unfortunately. So if any of you guys are listening, ex-guild members, please look us up on the Landreval server. We will be changing our name since there is already an A quote the guild end quote already on the Landreval server. So we will be changing the name to the Guild of Riddermark. Not to be confused. We just put
Nice.
the Riddermark there at the end. We wanted it took us a couple of days, my officer and I, to really come up with a name that would fit, and we just couldn't get the word the guild out of there because we've been the guild of the Riddermark for so long. So we just wanted to add that at the end. So we'll be GOR, the Riddermark for short. So look us up on there. Um, we'll be probably recruiting, more or less, if anybody would want to join us. So you see a person's name with the first three letters ARV, that's 99% me.
Awesome. And Wiga, what about yourself? Where are you and DKOD heading to and what's next?
Right now, our count of active members on Riddermark is about 16, 17 people. So most of us are going to transfer to Landrovo. That decision was made by me a long time ago because I just wanted to check out Landrovo. I actually ended up falling in love with the server, PvP, PvE wise, even a little bit of RP wise. Just don't tell a lot of people.
Not
But
Nothing wrong with
surprised.
that.
yeah. So I got my mom to play Landrovo. She ended up liking it too. She's always liked the Weatherstock on Landrovo, anyways. So but some of our members might be going to Arkenstone.
Aww.
I actually have an alt on Arkenstone, so I might just join up with whatever kin they join.
All right.
But yeah, so on Landrovo, DKOD, we've never been actively recruiting people through like World or GLFF or OOC channels or anything like that. We always just, if we run anything with you, like landscape quest, a raid, a little 3-man, and you like us or we like you a lot and we run multiple times together, then that's when we were like, hey, do you want to join the kin? So I mean, we're just gonna be out there on Landy, just running stuff.
Awesome, awesome. As for myself and my kinship, the Black Veil Mercenaries, we are also, surprise, surprise, heading to Landrival.
No
Woohoo!
way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And my kinship doesn't have a say in this. I say we move, we move. You hear me? But no, no. I've been on
Gosh, I would
Landrival.
never want to be in your kinship then. Glad I'm the leader of my own.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
I've been on Landrival for a very long time. Like towards the back end of 2011, I made a lobby warden on there, and I give a shout out to Merrick and Golden Star from A Casual Stroll to Mordor. If you ever hear this, I'm on Landy because of you. The community there is just so much nicer. Everything they've got everything going from them, from charity events to concerts, to role play. They've got Weatherstock on there. A lot of the nicest people I've met have been on Landreville, and it's just a no-brainer that if the server were to close, I was gonna be on there. And in fact, I already have half of my tunes, half of my alts on Landreville already. So in terms of BVM, we're a very small kinship, almost family-ish kinship. We
Hi,
do.
Barry.
Hi, Mel, who's my sister, by the way. Anyway, yeah, we do all kinds of things from, undermanning grades and undermanning this and that because there's just so few of us. We do PvP, we do all kinds of stuff together, and we're a tight bunch. We don't usually openly recruit, but once we get to Landy, we'll think about it because, I feel it's Lotro's last hurrah, and we want to do it right. So if you're interested, just get in touch with me here on YouTube or on Twitter or wherever, and we'll hook you up.
Oh, really quick before we end. In terms of the nice people, I have noticed that too about Landerval. One of the things that Riddermark is, I guess, infamous for now, is the amount of, I don't know how you want to call them, dissenters.
Oh yeah.
um, I don't want to use any foul language, obviously, in this podcast, but yeah, our server was rough. There
It
was a lot of
was.
people that were not very nice, and
Yep.
that's what we were infamous for. And that actually may have contributed to a lot of people transferring. I don't know. It could
Specifically
have
for
been.
our server, yeah. But Riddermark
Yeah,
also had a lot of nice people, and some of these people I'll never see again. We'll never see again. And
I know, right?
I've had excellent mentors like for Cappies. Shout out goes to Anangorn. For PVMP, rate leaders. Shout out goes to Adino, and all these other people. So I think it's only fair that we end the show in a Riddermark tribute, to the people from the Mark who's not gonna make it to a new server. Arv, I'll let you go first if you have a message for any Riddermark friends who are never coming back.
Oh yes. I have a few friends like mentors, like you said. My mentor Adrian. If you're listening to this, you yelled at me a lot for being on my not being on my wire for being a lackluster warden. Because of that, I was able to tank a lot of GS tier 2 thanks to you. So if you're listening to this, hope to see you back in game soon, maybe one day, my friend. Also to my friends Scalagram, Otbank, and Slicky Nikki X. They were actually my first kinship here on Riddermark that I joined. They were just randomly out recruiting in Bree, and I joined them, and I had a good amount of time with them. But I haven't seen you guys in years. If you guys are ever thinking about coming back, look up Arv on Landreval server. Maybe we can hook up one of these days.
Awesome. Wiga?
Wigia.
Um,
No, this question is gonna make
uh,
me cry.
Members of my kin, Frith, he was the reason I started a lore master. He taught me how to play the lore master. Um, he's really the reason I want to keep my one of my tunes on Riddermark for as long as possible. But other people like Shrewd, who trusted me
Oh
as
yeah,
a
Shrewd.
tank. Yeah, he trusted me as a tank. He was the best raid leader I've ever seen
I agree.
across all the servers I've been on. I've been on 3 servers. Number one raid leader ever. Just almost everybody from our old raid alliance, like that we don't talk to anymore. Um, and yeah, everyone.
Please
Breath.
come find us. We miss you.
Yeah, deep breath, Wiga. You did it right there. Okay, to wrap this up, I guess this is me. If you've ever played on the Riddermark and we've ever crossed paths in the Moors, in Bree, in any of the towns in the world chat, I want to thank you personally for making Riddermark what it was. Didn't matter how active you were, didn't matter who you were, where you're from, what you did, what class you played, but just want to thank you for being a part of the Riddermark server, our home, and we'll see you at the end when Frodo destroys the ring. Thank you guys. This is That Haffle Show, first episode. Stay tuned for the next.